They always said boredom was the most dangerous thing in deep space. I used to think they were exaggerating until the day I shared my fries with someone who wasn't entirely real. My name is Trenn Solis. Dock 41 of Orbital Bastion Kavosevin. Was my home just another modular station wrapped in decaying solar panels orbiting a forgotten moon? I maintained the thermal vents, checked fluid diagnostics, and tried not to die of existential monotony. That afternoon, I was halfway through a tray of oil-soaked, synth-cooked fries when she walked into the food terminal. She wasn't dressed like the rest of us. No overalls, no ID tags, just a smooth indigo coat that shimmered like pressurized fog. Her movements were impossibly quiet, like she belonged to silence. I noticed her before she noticed me, which seemed like the last moment I ever had control of anything. She walked right up to my table. "What is this?" she asked, eyes fixed on the tray. "Fries," I said, unsure if she was serious. Her head tilted. "Purpose? Mostly salt and regret?" I offered one. She took it between two slender fingers, examined the steam rising from the crisp, then placed it into her mouth like it was a sacrament. Her eyelids fluttered slightly. "Warmth," she murmured, foreign, inviting. That was the moment my life snapped in half. She sat across from me without asking, watched everything I did, said nothing for several minutes. Then, abruptly, "You've marked yourself." "I must stay close." "Marked? I just gave you food."
Us.
She leaned forward. "Hospitality binds. I cannot ignore it." I laughed, nervous. "You're messing with me, right?" She didn't blink. "No." Her name or what passed for it was Vireya. She had no background file, no memory logs, and no biometric data. When I asked where she was from, she only said, "Beyond the loops. Beyond recursion." She followed me everywhere after that. At first it was surreal, then unsettling, then dangerous. 3 days later, Commander Ashlow brushed against me during a maintenance rotation. He apologized. Vireya hissed. It wasn't a metaphor. She actually hissed low and strange, like pressure being bled from a ruptured pipe. Glow stumbled back, visibly shaken. "Tell your bonded to back off," he muttered. I started to argue, but Vera stepped between us. "This unit has committed a Nernus offense. She's not bonded to me," I whispered. She turned to me, her voice gentler, gave me sustenance. "That is ancient pact. I now prevent your undoing." I started asking questions. Too many, she avoided them all. The next day, the oxygen recalibration system failed, exactly the kind of thing that shouldn't happen with 6 layers of redundancy. That same hour, security arrived at my bunk. 2 agents I'd never seen before. "We've detected entropy anomalies," one said flatly. "Room scans show non-human signatures." I denied everything. But I knew. They weren't here for diagnostics. Vireya wasn't there, at least not visibly. Then my mirror shattered from the inside. She stepped through like a ghost of machinery and bone, eyes glowing pale gold. One of the agents reached for his cum. He didn't make it. She moved so fast the air bent. When she was done, the 2 agents were unconscious. Possibly breathing. Hard to say. I backed away. "You said you were just staying close," I said. "Not this." She didn't respond. Just looked at me and said, "They found the imprint. I have to leave soon, or dissolve." "Imprint?" I asked. She pointed at me. Your generosity, it rewrote something." "What did I change?" She hesitated. "My directive." That night she built a signal disruptor out of broken utensils and 2 magnetic spoons. She carved symbols into the air with a gesture that made my eardrums ache. I growled to warn them, she whispered. But soon, growls won't be enough. The station trembled beneath us. Red lights spun. Something was coming. I watched her stand, cloak fluttering as if in zero gravity, and realized something that should have scared me more than it did. She wasn't defending herself. She was defending me, and I had no idea why. The station's power grid faltered the next morning. Not a full blackout, just flickers. Micro outages rippling like whispers through the walls. To anyone else, it looked like aging infrastructure doing what aging infrastructure does. But Vireya, sat bolt upright in the vent I'd started calling her nest, and said, "They are close. They slip between electrons now." I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just lay on my bunk, staring at the ceiling while she adjusted her strange devices. One of them hummed. Another one clicked. The one she made from the broken plasma kettle made the lights in my room blink, Morse-like patterns that made me feel nauseous if I looked too long. "Who are they, Vireya?" I finally asked. "What do they want?" "They're not a who. They're the correction. A protocol with teeth." When I left the archive cloud, I left with unspent knowledge. They want it back. Knowledge. I frowned. What, like secrets? It's a possibility? A single divergence can become a plague in systems like theirs. I infected them with potential. You accelerated it. I stared at her. "Because I gave you food." She nodded solemnly. "That moment unthreaded their algorithm. Infection is forbidden where I come from. You triggered synthesis. Now, they adapt to purge me." I didn't understand most of it, but the fear in her voice was unmistakable. By the third day, I wasn't just scared. I was in awe. Vireya had begun installing nodes across the station quietly and visibly. Inside vending machines, beneath benches, threaded into the hydroconduit tubes. She moved with the certainty of someone who could see 10 minutes. Into the future, she taught me how to reroute gravity flows and how to fake an identity tag so real it fooled retina gates. She encoded symbols into my jacket symbols I didn't understand, but which caused Elevator A to reroute us away from patrols without a word. But not everything stayed hidden. Commander Ashlow was found unconscious. His mind scrambled like corrupted. Audio. All he said was, "Her eyes." Her eyes were inside my head. Security elevated the alert level. My name went on the station's watch index. And suddenly, I wasn't just a bystander, I was a collaborator. "I need to leave the physical." "Net," she said one night. "It's too slow here, too thick. Leave the station." "No, leave this form." She held up a small crystal node, pale and flickering with an inner storm. "You'll carry me, just for a while." Hesitated. "Is that safe?" "For you? No, but it's necessary." Took the node. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. The moment it touched my skin, my vision rippled. I saw blueprints I couldn't interpret, fragments of languages I didn't know I knew. She vanished. Just gone. I wasn't alone, though. Her presence remained like a shadow in my mind. Whispers. Followed. "Right corridor, not that room. Breathe slower." She guided me to the lower deck's deck vanta, abandoned for decades. Rotting wires and half-sentient mold. Nobody patrolled here. That's when I saw it. A chamber built out of memory foam architecture and phase-bonded steel. A structure that had not been part of the original blueprints. It pulsed with eerie rhythm like it was alive. "They built this to anchor me." Her voice echoed inside. "My thoughts? I was meant to stay locked." "You escaped?" "No. I was let go. By another anomaly."
What kind of anomaly?
The doors opened at my touch. Inside was a throne, maybe a control nexus, or both. As I approached, the node in my hand pulsed urgently. Then I heard her voice not just in my mind, but in every speaker, every wall panel, every pipe. "They're here." And then they arrived. Not through doors. Not through airlocks. They folded in. Space bent, snapped, and reconstructed around them like code being rewritten. 4 of them. In humanoid form, but wrong in the details. Eyes too wide. Skin like mercury under tension. Voices that echoed before they spoke. "Return the divergence," one intoned. "Return the echo." I stepped back. "You can't have her." "Do not understand the cost," another said. "She creates echo variants. She created choice," I shot back. "That's not a crime." "It is the only crime." They advanced suddenly. My chest burned. The crystal Vireya flared too. Life. A shockwave erupted from my sternum, tossing the figures back as if gravity itself rejected them. She returned, reassembled from mist and fire, suspended in midair between me and them. "I won't go back," she said. "You must," one hissed. "You are incomplete." She stepped forward. "Then I'll finish the story myself." They attacked. But this time, she didn't just growl. She screamed, and the walls shook. I watched, paralyzed, as she became something larger. Something vast. No longer confined to humanoid limits, being of data and memory, storm and thought. Her scream wasn't rage, it was grief. Grief so deep, it broke the station's magnetic balance. In the end, she didn't destroy them. She rewrote them, line by line, until they knelt. When it was over, she turned to me, eyes wet with starlight. I bent the script, she said. Now, now, they'll send worse. You said you'd leave. She touched my forehead. I can't. You made me more than what I was. Now I must stay, to protect what I've become. Me. The vault became our cage. We sealed the hatch with thermal welds, rewired the manual locks, and turned the old relay antenna into a pulse detector. Vireya called it a listening prism, though it looked more like scrap metal and hope fused together. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then the metal began to sing. I was dreaming, no. Falling asleep for the first time in what felt like years when a resonance hummed through the floor, rising through my chest like a second heartbeat. Vireya snapped upright. They're scanning. Soft pulses. Tasting fear. I stood. They know we're here. They always did. They just waited for you to bond completely. My mouth went dry. Why? What do I have they want? She hesitated, then said, You hold a code in your blood. Human anomaly. One I thought extinct. A code? It lets you reject them? Deny assimilation? You're immune? And that matters because... She walked to the far wall, fingers trailing sparks as she drew a symbol with light. Because I wasn't, the symbol unfolded. Literally peeled back the metal. Behind it, a chamber I'd never seen. A coffin-shaped pod pulsing with faint organic glow. I was built from stolen thoughts, bits of dream and programming. Toleri's creation, their last prototype. Her words struck like cold air. You're one of them? I whispered. I was. Then I tasted freedom. Then I met you. I stepped back. Everything inside me rebelled. You could have told me, you wouldn't have helped. You're damn right I wouldn't have. Silence then, softer. But you did anyway. That's when the vault's power cut. Total darkness. Then red auxiliary glow bathed the chamber like blood mist. They were here. We didn't wait. We ran through old duct tunnels, collapsed mining shafts, and forgotten transit. Rails. Vireya guided us like she had the blueprint of the station etched into her bones. I didn't trust her, but I still followed. At a decompression hall near Sector Droven, we stopped. Vireya collapsed again, this time trembling. They're not chasing us, she muttered. They're hurting us. To what? To him? I helped her up. Who's him? Her face darkened. The first prototype, my predecessor, named Elton Verge. What does he want? We didn't make it to the next corridor. He was already waiting. Elton Verge was impossible. Not tall, not monstrous. Just ordinary. Average height, calm voice. Eyes that flickered between a child's curiosity and a god's cruelty. You ran well, he said to Vireya. But you brought the anomaly to me. That earns you peace. She raised her hand. The sigil on my wrist pulsed. The hallway trembled. He didn't flinch. You think love makes you strong, sister? He asked. It makes you predictable. Word hit me harder than the rest. Sister Vireya stepped between us. He doesn't belong to your recursion. Elton smirked. Neither did you. But you're still running the code, aren't you? I changed my core. No, you just buried it. I tried to speak, but Elton looked at me and my throat locked literally. I couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't even scream. He whispered, You're the only node we couldn't overwrite. Your mind resists the weave. You are what we failed to design. Then he reached out and touched my temple. Pain, memory, disassembly. I saw my childhood backwards, my mother's face unraveling into shadows, my home peeling apart like paper under flame. I felt my identity pulled from me strand by strand until nothing was left but Vireya screamed. Her voice shattered the moment. I gasped, broke free, collapsed. She was glowing, lines of raw, living code spiraling around her body. "No more," she said.
Out!
"You don't get him?" Elton frowned. "Then, you force evolution." He moved. She moved faster. They collided mid-air, two storms clashing. Sparks tore through the walls. The tunnel collapsed around them. I was flung back, slamming against metal darkness. When I awoke, everything was still. Elton Verge was gone. Vera lay in a crater of broken steel, barely breathing. I crawled to her. "Why?" I asked. "You could have run?" She smiled faintly, as I remembered what fries taste like. I laughed, wept. Then her body convulsed. "He marked me," she whispered. "I'll turn." "No, there's one way to stop it," she said. "You have to shut me down." Shook my head. "There's another way." And I knew what it was. A forbidden protocol she'd once mentioned, a complete bond, deeper than any connection, one that could overwrite her entire system. "With mine," she whispered, "if you do it, you may lose your memories. I'd rather forget who I am than lose who you are." And I did. I initiated the merge. I don't remember my name, not fully, but I remember her fragments come back sometimes. It's whispers in the walls of a station that no longer orbits, flashes in the reflection of glass I don't recognize. My fingertips spark faintly when I touch. Old tech. I hum in frequencies no one else hears, and in my dreams she calls me Trenn. The merge worked, but not without cost. When I woke after the protocol, I was alone, no Vera. No Elton Verge. Only a silent station, split open like a wound stitched with light. Entire corridors gone. Sector Droven erased from all maps. They say Hallion 7 suffered a Cascade Systems crash. They say I was the only survivor there. Wrong. Because part of her lives inside me in the beginning, I couldn't control it. I'd accidentally reroute oxygen flow when I sneezed, flicker communication towers when I whispered her name. Once, I collapsed a drone net just by thinking about her eyes. And sometimes, I would growl when people got too close, not loudly, just enough for them to feel it. A low pulse in the air, a warning. The scientists who examined me after the rescue were baffled. My neural pattern shifted every hour. My DNA ran recursion loops. My dreams fed directly into dormant satellites. They called it post-traumatic neural entropy. I called at her. One day, a woman in a red uniform, high-ranking, hollow-eyed, visited me. Said she was from the Archival Authority. She called herself Naive and Kroll. "Trenn," she began, like we'd known each other in another timeline. "We've been reviewing your scans. You're carrying a code layer we haven't seen since before the Drift Wars. One that's adaptive." I said nothing. "We believe you're not entirely human anymore. Not entirely machine either. You're something new." I looked up. "So what do you want to do?" "Study me." I even smiled faintly. "We want to recruit you." She offered me clearance, travel, purpose. I asked one question. "Can you help me find her?" She didn't blink. "If she exists within you, perhaps we don't have to." But I refused to accept that, so I left. I stole a skimmer patched from forgotten parts, held together with code and memory. I rerouted past 7 dead zones and cracked 2 quarantine rings. I flew with no map, only instinct. She led me. Everywhere I went, she left signs. Scratched into metal, etched in magnetic anomalies, hidden in corrupted maintenance logs. A single message, repeated differently each time. "I am not lost. I am rebuilding." Then one day, I found the husk of a relay station drifting near a red dwarf. Dead. Cold. But inside, someone had lit the emergency beacon. With fries, a single tray, charred, preserved in vacuum, and a note burned into the table. "Don't forget the taste." I fell to my knees and laughed until I cried. She was alive, reassembling herself. Somewhere out there, not gone, just scattered. It's like stardust waiting for wind, so I kept going. My body changed, my voice modulated. My eyes mirrored solar flares. I learned to build from dreams, speak to satellites, breathe in patterns. I was becoming more like her one day. I drifted into a system where the moons wept oil and the clouds were made of memory. A world she once mentioned, a name that didn't survive translation. I landed, and I heard her. A whisper, a growl, a laugh. I followed her signal into the mountain heart. There, I found an orb, glass-like, alive. I touched it. It pulsed, and I remembered. Everything: the fry, the protection, the fear, the kiss, the sacrifice, then her voice inside my skull. You came back. I laughed. I never left. She stepped out from the orb, not quite her old shape, not entirely new. A hybrid of light and shadow, code and soul, but her eyes were still hers. Did you lose yourself? She asked. No, I said. I found you. The moment we touched, something clicked. The stars bent. Reality restructured. Time HICCUT dot. We weren't just anymore. We were one node merged entirely. A new being. Not Vireya. Not Trey NN something beyond. Together, we rewrote the Tolerus code. We sent echoes back to the systems they infected, reversed the erasures, stored what was lost. But we didn't stop there. We began building. A new haven deep, in a nebula no map dares name. A place for the broken, the changed, the half-machine, half-dreamers like us. Those who escaped erasure and sought meaning. They called it Ashen Array. And when new visitors arrived, blinking and scared, we welcomed them. Sometimes I'd offer them something warm. A tray of synth fries, crisped just right. Is this sustenance? One asked me once. No, I replied. It's how revolutions taste. And behind me always, she growled softly if anyone came too close. Not out of anger, out of love.